KX112 Part 2. Port work, head work. Let's see if we can get some serious horsepower out of this bike. The goal is going to be to pump this thing up to a nationally competitive package because that's what we do here at this shop. Our job is to make whoever our clients are competitive at the national scene of racing. So this Kawasaki is way off the mark when it comes to what we build on the KTM, Yamaha, and former Kawasaki 100 side. We used to build 30 plus horsepower 104s. So our goal is to get this bike up to the standard that we demand and what our clients are gonna need to be successful in racing. Before we get too far, I think what I'm gonna do is show you guys what cutting a head can do, and we'll go over some head theory and different head ideas. So let's first off, just pull the head, take a look at it, then we'll do a quick cut on it, put it back on, dyno that. Then let's actually do some port work. We'll show you what we're looking at, what we're doing, what our goal is, put it back on the dyno it, and show you what kind of gains we're gonna get from that. Let's get right to it. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the like, make sure you subscribe, hit the bells, all that crap, because I gotta pay the bills, man. This room's expensive. Just messing with you guys. Thanks, let's get to it. All right, first up, we're gonna pull this head off and show you guys that. And then we'll do a little cutting on it, go back on the dyno with it so you guys can see kind of what a head change will do. This will be the initial head change, just a little simple head change. And then we'll go back with the head and do a more complex change so that we can show you the whole process of different head designs and ideas. So getting along on this. All right, voila. Head is off. Cylinder's looking beautiful. Just get up in there. Take a look at this. Piston's looking great. Get it up to the top. This piston's showing that we're still a little bit rich in jetting. Leaner you go, the more carbon you will deposit and build up on your piston. And that's because of heat. Heat builds up due to, the carbon builds up due to heat. So this is still rich. That's a good indication for us. The other indication is this spark plug here. You can't really see it on camera, but if you get way down in the bottom of the shell, there's a black soot ring. The height of that black soot ring determines a lot about your jetting. So that's one thing to judge and look by. And then you can look at the plug strap for timing. This one's actually got about the right timing. So yeah, we're gonna move on. Here's the head. Now this is a terrible head design, okay? They basically took the 85 head, put a positive angle on the cutter, and just cut it up towards the dome. It has very terrible squish action and almost no combustion chamber. So for the first round of this, what we're gonna do is cut it and tighten up the squish. But the second round of this, we're gonna totally redesign the head and give it a proper squish band and a proper combustion chamber. That'll be after we do some port work. First things first, let's do a little cutting and show you what just a little more compression will look like on the dyno. Just took out about 15 thousandths out of this head. I say about, maybe plus or minus a thousandth. So we just faced it. The squish is gonna tighten by 15 thousandths and our compression ratio is gonna go up. We can do that math here in a little bit for you guys. But we're gonna get this back on the dyno with just this change alone. And then from there, we'll get to serious port work in a more conventional or modern combustion chamber coming up next. I'll draw that out for you on the whiteboard after we do this dyno. Okay, here we go. Head going back on the bike. We're gonna reuse this head gasket for now. Luckily, it came apart easily, and that's lucky on new motors like this to have low time. See if I can do this with one hand. All right. Boom, back on. Let's get this head torqued up, rerun it for you guys, and then we'll do some serious port work. Now, cut head. Let me go turn this fan off. So we're going to save this data, allow changes. Cut head 0.015 inch. Download data. Haven't run the bike yet. This is our first look at it. I'm going to probably do another couple. Really get that transmission fluid up, the temperature. But we'll see how this initial run looks. I bet we lost some RPM. That's usually what would happen. Maybe gain some power, hopefully. Nope, yep, picked up a little bit of peak. All right, let's see what we got here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is the last pull where we left off yesterday. So that's what the cut head just did. Picked up a huge amount of front side. And I'm talking massive amount, okay? But it signs off earlier. And why is that? Well, we'll get into the theory of a cylinder head here in a little bit. But fantastic torque gains. Peak torque is up a foot-pound, it looks like. 10.3, yeah, so 0.7 of a foot-pound on peak torque. And it just signs off a little earlier. And that has to do with pipe temperature like we preach in some other videos. So the pipe is not getting as hot in bulk temperature due to the added compression. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So there you have it. That's what would happen if you add some compression to an otherwise stock bike with a standard head. Now we're going to pull it off and do some torque work. Cylinder is off. So let's get into a little bit of port work here. And then I'll also be talking to you guys here about some port theory as well as some head theory. You can skip through that if you don't want to see it, but I think that it'll be very informative for all of us to take a look at some of the things that you're looking to accomplish when you do port work and head work. So there's the head that we cut about 15 thousandths. And here's the stock cylinder. It's a very old design. That's the inlet side you're looking at. Reads inlet side. So you can see that the air has to come in there at the bottom and get around the piston because the piston's down there. Here's the transfer ports down in there. Look how big those dividers are between all these ports. There's a lot of available area not being used. Here's the exhaust port. There's a power valve in the down position. Other side of transfer ports. So we're gonna work hard at this and see if we can't pick up some serious horsepower. Be sure to keep your eyes peeled as to all the little details that we're gonna do, and I'll go over as much as I can in this video. On the porting bench, KX112, got shavings and stuff everywhere. I wanted to give you a quick idea of what's going on in here. So there's a couple limitations in this cylinder on what you can and cannot do. And that has to come to the casting. So if you go too far, you'll go into the water jackets. Has to do with the piston ring pin location. That means where the ring pin is located at. And a couple other limitations. So look down in there. That's transfer ports. That's the A port on the left, B port on the right, C port or boost port in the back of the cylinder. Look how big that divider is between the A and the B port. Look how much space there is between the B and the boost port. Tons of cylinder area not being used. Now we've already ported that boost port. It used to be really low and was way below the other ports because it was just an 85 cylinder bored out. So we've raised that up. Now, let's look at this other side. So that's the side you were looking at. Right there, that was that one. And here's, here's the side that we ported. I'm gonna get this out the way. It's a mess in here, so sorry, the shavings are everywhere. So if we can get a good shot. So you can see we've expanded or opened up. Focus, focus. Thank you. So we've widened out that A port and B port. And unfortunately, I would love to widen this B port all the way around to that boost port, but we can't do it because the piston ring pin location pin is going between those two. And we just can't do it because the ring pin would drop into the port. Now, if the ring pin's located in the 6 o'clock position in the middle of the boost port, it's a non-issue. But when it's over here, the exhaust port closing the ring pushes it, tries to rotate it. So it's actually a really bad design, and most race engines have it located differently. So there's a good shot of the other port and of one we're porting. You can really see a big difference there. Go through the tunnels, doesn't do anything. Go in there and pretty it up. None of that work amounts to any horsepower, at least the way that it's being done here. You can go in there and epoxy, reshape, change the volume, stuff like that. Here's the inlet. That's what the reeds see. And in some cylinders, and we've done it in the past on these, you can take those webs out, those dividers out. There's a little bit of power there at sacrifice of a couple other things. So I'm not a big fan of doing that all the time, and not in this case. All right, so we're going to go match this other side up, but I can, on the other side, because the piston ring pin is not located on this side, it's a single ring, we will be able to widen that B port a little bit. But one of the things you don't want to run into is highly unsymmetrical flow left and right. If we get too much flow out of this one port, it unbiases and unbalances the flow in the entire cylinder. But we also need to get flow to make horsepower, so we will be opening that up as well. So let's keep plugging away and get this ported and back on the dyno. Back together on the dyno a whole nother day later. That's how long it takes to do some of this stuff. I didn't even pretty up or polish the exhaust port, didn't do any of the bling work that people think porting is. All we did was our window work, moved the exhaust port up a little bit, reworked some of the transfer ports in the boost port, and now we're back together. We're gonna show you what real port work can do, and then I've got a part 3 to this video. It wasn't planned, but I'm gonna pull it back apart and show you some really interesting stuff about redesigning some things within the design, things that you can't just grind away. You actually have to add and change. We're gonna do that, plus a real special thing. I got contacted by someone. They're basically gonna sponsor this 3rd video with a part of theirs, and we're gonna show you some cool stuff in that. So let's get this ported cylinder back on the dyno and see what just porting does. And now we're gonna have to start touching on ignition a little bit now that we've made a change to the cylinder. So all of that's coming up on the dyno. Okay, ported. I think I heard a little detonation or a misfire. I was hearing it a little bit yesterday after we cut the head. It's either sputtering a little bit or it's misfiring. I can definitely tell that I think the power valve opening could be altered. So cut head, ported V1. Okay, I'm gonna download this. It's a lot warmer today. I'll show you that in a second. So the jetting's a little richer today as well, which is important. It's a very different day of jetting, but that's okay. It sounded a lot louder when it did come on the pipe. I think that's a positive sign, but I definitely had some sputtering or misfiring. I'm gonna have to add some race gas to this bike here in a little bit. All right, so we got a little bit, nothing crazy. You can see right here, we got a little dip now. Why did we get this dip? Well, when we move the exhaust port up a tiny bit, when the power valve now opens, because it snaps open on the Kawasaki, it's opening a hair too early. And so what we would, and then now the exhaust port's a tiny bit too low. So what you do is you shim that spring up. Now we picked up a little bit of power, right? Just a little bit, nothing serious. So well, I say nothing serious. This is not the last run. I think one of the later runs, we'll find that run. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is gonna be one of the later runs the other day. So there's the cut head run at the end of the day. And then here's with some port work. You can see we picked up some peak horsepower, not even to 25 yet. Picked up some over rev, but we lost a lot along the way in the front. Why did we lose along the front? Well, now that exhaust port's higher, it's changed how the pipe functions. Now the pipe thinks that it's shorter than it was, so it revs better but has less bottom. So we're gonna make a couple more changes. We're now gonna go back in with a little bit more timing. I can already tell you that it's gonna need that. And I'm a little bit worried about the detonation and the misfiring I'm hearing, but I didn't see any signs of that on the piston. I'm gonna pull the plug, we'll look at that. If I don't see any signs of it here, then I'm gonna go ahead and add a little timing. And then I'm also going to, after this, we're gonna pull the head off and cut it differently to match this engine package a little bit better and see if we can't start jazzing up this horsepower. But first off, let's go with some timing. So picked up some peak, picked up some over rev, lost some front side, and gained this little dip here because we moved the exhaust port. So how does one go about changing the timing? Well, if you just want to advance or retard the existing ignition curve, you can go watch our ignition video on that. You just move the stator plate if the bike has an adjustable one, which the 112 or Kawasaki 85 do as well. So we're going to pull this cover, advance the timing a little bit, and then we're going to rerun it. Timing advance just a little bit. Let's go back on and re-baseline, or not re-baseline, but see what that timing change is. Ready? Turn the fan on. I still have the little dip where the power valve opens. I can feel it. ADV timing. One line. So there's 3 lines on that motor. We put it to the 1 line advanced, which is pretty advanced on a Kawasaki. Not a ton, but quite a bit more than, say, a Yamaha 1 line width would be. So. But hopefully we're headed the right direction with the peak and after the power valve opens. All right, yes, we're headed the right way. As you can see, it liked it, but we still have this hole right here, okay? And that's caused by that power valve opening just a tad too soon for our liking, but we've made big progress, okay? So this is yesterday where we left off, all right? And then with this timing change, we've now basically matched the bottom, right where the power valve opens, little dip, and now we're exceeding, right? We're doing really good, and we got more over rev. We're only up into the, this is relatively smooth, so let me unsmooth it a hair. So we're up here at 2638 on the horsepower, and Yesterday was 2381 was the peak that we got with the cut head, V-force reeds, board car, pro circuit pipe silencer. And then let's show you what just that timing change did versus before. So that's just the timing change. We're probably going to do a tad bit more. It liked it, didn't lose over rev, did way out here, but that's not that. That's hard to say if that's dyno or when I let off, right? So we just picked up everywhere. So we're going to go and add probably a hair bit more. I do need to pull the plug and look at it real close. So that's a nice power gain. Let's show you real quick what this motor was making though, bone stock. So this is our baseline bone stock motor. Boom. Look how much power. We're starting to do some serious damage here. Oops. Sorry. Wrong one. It's gonna be this one. Wow. Now we're talking about a motorcycle. Now, is it where we want to be? Not quite, but we're inching up on 27. And we will definitely continue to play with this and try to get it up to 28. I've had them over 30, like I said, but that's a lot of work, a lot of specialty stuff. But next up,